On Christmas night, while snow fell softly outside a house glowing with warmth, my brother looked at my 6-year-old daughter and told us we didn't belong. No shouting, no anger, just quiet rejection in a room full of smiling faces. I walked out holding her shaking hand, not knowing that moment would shape every choice I'd make for the rest of my life. And that one day, the people who cast us out would finally understand the cost of that single sentence. I still remember the way the snow looked that night, thick and quiet, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Christmas lights blinked along the street in soft colors, red and gold reflecting off frozen sidewalks. Cars were parked bumper to bumper near the house, their windows fogged from laughter and warmth inside. It should have felt like safety. It should have felt like home. Instead, I stood there with my daughter's small hand in mine, feeling like we were intruders. My name is Laura Bennett. I was 34 that winter, divorced for 2 years, and still learning how to breathe without apologizing for existing. My daughter, Emma, was 6. She wore a red coat that was already too thin for the cold, the zipper stubbornly refusing to stay up. Her cheeks were pink from the air, her eyes bright with the excitement that only children have when they believe magic is still real. "Mom," she whispered, tugging my hand, "is Uncle Daniel's house the one with the big reindeer?" "Yes," I said, forcing a smile. "That's the one." The inflatable reindeer stood tall in the yard, glowing softly, its plastic face permanently cheerful. I wondered how something so fake could look more welcoming than the people inside. I hadn't wanted to come. Every instinct in my body had warned me not to. But Christmas is heavy when you're alone, and heavier when you have a child who deserves more than silence and takeout dinners. Daniel had insisted. He always insisted, in that confident voice that made it sound like a favor. "Come on, Laura," he'd said on the phone a week earlier. "It's Christmas. You and Emma shouldn't be alone." I didn't ask if he meant that. I didn't ask if we were truly wanted. I told myself family meant enduring discomfort for the sake of tradition. The door opened before I could knock. Warm air rushed out, carrying the smell of roasted meat, cinnamon, and pine. Laughter spilled into the cold night. "Laura," Daniel said, standing there with a glass of something amber in his hand. He looked the same as always, clean sweater, confident posture, the kind of smile that never reached his eyes. "You made it." Emma stepped forward shyly. "Merry Christmas, Uncle Daniel." He glanced down at her, nodded once. "Hey, kid. No hook, no worms. Just an acknowledgement." Behind him, I saw my sister-in-law, Karen, adjusting ornaments on the tree. Her movements were precise, controlled. She looked over, her lips tightening for just a second before she smiled. "Hi, Laura," she said. Uma." Her smile felt like a thin layer of ice. We stepped inside. The house was full. Relatives, friends, neighbors. Everyone seemed to belong effortlessly. Coats were hung without question. Drinks were handed out. Names were called with affection. Emma clung closer to me. I told myself I was imagining it, that I was too sensitive, that years of being talked over and dismissed had trained me to see rejection everywhere. We sat on the edge of the living room couch. Emma swung her legs, watching the other children open small gifts that had appeared under the tree. Bright wrapping paper, shiny bows. "Mom," she whispered, "are we opening presents too?" "Later," I said, though I wasn't sure. Time passed strangely, thick and slow. Conversations flowed around us, but never included us. I caught fragments, vacation plans, work promotions, jokes that required shared history. Karen walked by carrying a tray of cookies. She offered them to everyone in the circle, skipping right past Emma. My daughter watched, confused, then looked down at her hands. I stood. "Karen, could Emma have a cookie?" Karen paused, eyes flicking from me to the tray. "Oh, these are mostly for after dinner." She moved on. Emma didn't say anything, but her shoulders slumped. Dinner was announced an hour later. Everyone gathered around the long table. Place settings were already laid out. I counted quickly. There were not enough. Daniel frowned slightly. Karen leaned in, whispering something to him. He sighed, rubbing his forehead. "Well," he said loudly, "looks like we miscounted." I waited. Surely they'd fix it. Add 2 chairs. Rearrange. Instead, Daniel looked directly at me. Laura, he said, tone casual, maybe you and Emma can eat later? There's not really space at the table. The room went quiet in that way people pretend not to notice. Emma's fingers tightened around mine. It's fine, I said quickly, heat rushing to my face. We can. There's food in the kitchen, Karen added. You can make plates and eat there. The kitchen. Alone. Like an afterthought. I swallowed my pride and nodded. I told myself it was just one night. Just one meal. We sat on stools by the counter, our plates balanced awkwardly. Laughter drifted in from the dining room. Someone clinked a glass. A toast was made. To family, Daniel said. I almost laughed at the cruelty of it. Emma poked at her food. Mom, she whispered, did we do something wrong? No, I said too quickly. Of course not. But she looked unconvinced. Children always know. After dinner, gifts were brought out. Everyone returned to the living room. Piles of wrap boxes surrounded the tree. Emma's eyes widened again, hope flickering stubbornly. Names were called. Gifts exchanged. Hugs given. Emma sat on the floor near my feet, hands folded in her lap. One by one, the pile shrank. No one said her name. Finally, when the last box was opened, she looked up at me. Mom. Her voice was small. Did Santa forget me? Something inside my chest cracked. Before I could answer, Daniel spoke. All right, he said, standing. I think that's everything. I stood too, my hands shaking. Daniel, I said quietly, Emma didn't get anything. He frowned, as if genuinely puzzled. Oh, right. Karen crossed her arms. We didn't think it was appropriate, she said. Given everything, I asked. Daniel sighed, the way people do when they believe they're being patient. Laura, you know this isn't really Emma's family Christmas. The words didn't register at first. I'm sorry, I said. He straightened, his voice lowering. You're divorced. You live separately. This is our family tradition. It's confusing for the kids when outsiders come in. Outsiders. Emma looked between us, sensing danger. Are we outsiders, Mom? She asked. I opened my mouth, but Daniel spoke first. I'm just saying, he continued, you and Emma don't really belong here like this. Especially not at Christmas. The room was silent. Faces stared and then quickly looked away. No one said a word. Emma's eyes filled with tears. I felt something cold and sharp settle into my bones. I knelt in front of her. Go get your coat, sweetheart. But she began. Please. She ran toward the hallway. I stood and looked at my brother. You didn't have to invite us, I said, my voice steady in a way that surprised me. But you did. And then you did this. He shrugged. I'm just being honest. I nodded slowly. I won't forget this. He laughed lightly. You're being dramatic. I didn't reply. I took Emma's hand, helped her into her coat, and walked out into the snow. The door closed behind us. Outside, the cold hit hard. Emma was crying now, quiet sobs that shook her small body. I'm sorry, she said. I'll be good next time. No, I said fiercely, kneeling to her level. You did nothing wrong. Nothing. She wiped her face with her sleeve. Why didn't they want us? I pulled her into my arms, holding her tight as snow fell around us. Sometimes, I said slowly, people show you who they really are. That night changed everything. At the time, I thought the pain would fade. That time would soften it. That Daniel would apologize. That Karen would feel shame. None of that happened. Weeks passed. Then months. Calls stopped. Invitations disappeared. And in the quiet that followed, something else grew. Resolve. I worked longer hours. Took on extra shifts. I saved every dollar I could. I stopped asking for help from people who believed my child was optional. Emma grew too. Stronger. Quieter. She stopped asking about her uncle. Years later, people would ask me why I never went back. Why I cut them off so completely. I would smile and say nothing. Because some nights are carved into you forever. And I never forgot that Christmas night. Years passed, but that night never loosened its grip on me. It didn't fade into a blurry memory like other pains. It stayed sharp, precise, replaying itself whenever December rolled around, whenever Christmas lights flickered on, whenever I saw a child clutching a gift with both hands like it was proof they mattered. Emma was 10 when she finally asked about it again. We were decorating our small apartment. the same one we had lived in since the divorce. The tree was artificial, slightly crooked, but Emma insisted it was perfect. She hung an ornament shaped like a star and stepped back to admire it. "Mom," she said casually, as if asking about homework, "why don't we go to Uncle Daniel's anymore?" My hands froze mid-motion. I had prepared for many questions over the years, but somehow that one still caught me off guard. "Because," I said carefully, "sometimes people don't know how to be kind." She frowned. "But he's family." I met her eyes. Family isn't just blood. It's how people treat you. She thought about that for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Okay, that was Emma. She absorbed truths quietly, stored them somewhere deep, and built herself around them. By the time she was 13, she had learned not to expect anything from people who once made her feel small. She was strong, independent, fiercely empathetic. And yet, there was a softness in her that terrified me. A softness the world loves to test. Daniel resurfaced when Emma turned 15. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon. His name on my phone made my stomach drop. "Laura," he said, as if no time had passed. "It's been a while." "Yes," I replied. "It has." There was a pause. "Listen, Karen and I are hosting Christmas again this year. Thought maybe you'd want to come. For old times' sake." "Old times." "You told my daughter she didn't belong," I said flatly. Another pause. "That was years ago." "Yes," I said. "And," he sighed, "you're still holding on to that." I laughed, short and humorless. "You don't get to decide what scars someone keeps." "We're family," he said, irritation creeping in. "It's Christmas." I ended the call. That night, I told Emma about it. I expected anger, maybe sadness. Instead, she shrugged. "I don't want to go." Relief flooded me, followed immediately by guilt for feeling it. Life moved forward. I advanced at work, slowly climbing from assistant to manager. It wasn't glamorous, but it was stable. Emma thrived in school. She discovered a love for writing, filling notebooks with stories about brave girls and quiet victories. When she was 18, she earned a scholarship to a university 3 hours away. The day I dropped her off, I hugged her longer than necessary. "You'll be okay," she said, smiling gently. "You taught me that." I drove home alone, the apartment too quiet, the tree still packed away in its box. That December, for the first time in years, I felt the weight of loneliness settle heavy on my chest. Not sadness, something deeper, a sense of unfinished business. Daniel called again. This time, I answered. "Emma's not coming," I said before he could speak. "I figured," he replied. "But you could." I almost said no. Habit urged me to protect myself. Instead, I said, "I'll think about it." I don't know why I went. Maybe curiosity. Maybe a need for closure. Maybe a quiet desire to see if time had changed anything. The house looked the same. Bigger, actually. Renovated. More lights. More decorations. Karen opened the door. Her smile faltered when she saw me. "Laura," she said. "Wow." "Yes," I replied. The evening was polite. Painfully so. Conversations skimmed the surface. Apologies hovered, but never landed. At dinner, Daniel raised his glass. "To family," he said again. I watched him closely this time. His confidence was thinner now, his certainty cracked around the edges. After dessert, he pulled me aside. "I want to clear the air," he said. "What happened back then, maybe we didn't handle it well." "Maybe," I echoed. "But you have to understand," Karen added, joining us. "We were protecting our children. We didn't want confusion." I looked at her calmly. "By excluding a 6-year-old? She shifted uncomfortably. Daniel crossed his arms. "You made choices, Laura. Choices have consequences." Something clicked into place then. A realization so clear it almost made me smile. They didn't regret what they did. They regretted losing control of the narrative. "I didn't come here for an apology," I said. "I came to see if you had changed." "And?" Daniel asked. "I see you haven't." I left early. The snow was falling again, just like that night years ago. But this time, I wasn't holding a child's hand. I wasn't begging silently to be included. I walked away lighter. Emma came home for Christmas that year. We cooked together, laughed, exchanged simple gifts. No grand table, no forced smiles. "Best Christmas ever," she said, hugging me. A year later, everything shifted. Daniel lost his job. Karen's health declined. The extended family fractured under stress and unspoken resentments. Calls began coming again, subtle at first, then desperate. They needed help. I listened. I sympathized. I did not step in. When Emma graduated, they sent cards. When she got her first job, they sent congratulations. Distance had made them polite. One evening, Emma asked, "Do you hate them?" I thought about it. "No," I said honestly. "I just don't forget." She smiled softly. "Me neither." That was when I knew I had done something right. Years later, at Emma's wedding, I watched her walk down the aisle, confident, radiant, surrounded by people who had earned their place in her life. Daniel wasn't there. Neither was Karen. Not because they weren't invited, but because Emma chose peace. As I stood watching my daughter begin a life built on respect, love, and boundaries, I felt the echo of that long-ago Christmas night finally loosen its grip. Not forgotten, but transformed. Because the night my brother said we didn't belong taught me something powerful. Belonging is never something you beg for. It's something you build. You just heard a story of betrayal, survival, and quiet revenge. If it left you thinking, hit like, share it forward, and subscribe for more true emotional stories that'll stay with you long after they end. Every click helps another story find its voice.